Okay. All right. So welcome to the How to Health podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marvis, and today we are very blessed to have Dr. Scott Stoll as our interviewee. How are you doing, Dr. Stoll?
I'm doing well, Lori. Thanks so much for having me, and hello to all the audience out there. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
Well, we are beyond excited to have you here. I mean, we're going to have so much to talk about. I'm not even sure where to begin, but we'll see where this goes. But I just want to give you a bit of an introduction because you have had quite a professional life and personal. It's just amazing. So Dr. Scott Stoll is a board-certified specialist in physical medicine and rehab. He served as the chairman of the Department of Physical Medicine and Rehab and medical director for physical therapy in the Spine Center. At Coordinated Health, he specializes in regenerative medicine, utilizing natural treatments, diet, and lifestyle to aid in the healing chronic disease and injuries. As a member of the 1994 United States Olympic Bobsled team, Dr. Stoll is well suited for this additional roles as team physician at Lehigh University, United States Bobsled and Skeleton Federation, and advising physicians serving professional Olympic athletes. And by the way, they did win a medal in the World Cup circuit, which we can get to that. Dr. Stoll has served as a member of the Whole Foods Scientific Medical Advisory Board, assisting advising creation of culture of health for the 53,000 employees in the 300 stores worldwide. It's incredible, including the Dr. Stoll 1-week health immersions held biannually. And I really want to get into that too. He co-founded the Plantrician Project, which is, again, a very exciting thing, a non-for-profit 501c3, the International Plant-Based Nutrition Healthcare Conference, which is coming up, which we can talk about. He, the International Cardiovascular Summit, co-chaired with the president of the American College of Cardiology. He's educating and inspiring healthcare professionals on the topics such as a whole food plant-based diet. And in 2010, he's also served in Samaritan's Purse, which is an amazing thing. It's a Christian organization in Haiti, and also as a board member of Teams for the Medical Missions Outreach to Jamaica, which is amazing. I went to Uganda last year. I'd love to talk about that.
Oh, that's great.
And then also, Dr. Stoll, you're also on your own. You have your own daily radio program, Health Minutes. You're also on Channel 60 TV and lectures national and internationally. Guest appearances on Dr. Oz, Live with Mary Lou Henner, Trinity Broadcasting Center, Daystar Television. I mean, that's incredible. And you're not only that, you have a lovely wife and 6 children living in Pennsylvania. So he's done all that and raised 6 kids. Wow, that's incredible. So I don't even know how to start and unpacking all of this fun stuff that's enwrapped in the package of Dr. Stoll. So I guess I'll just start with how I found you first. Was when I first transitioned using the whole food plant-based diet in my practice, I was really looking as a Christian for the biblical component of this, and because I was getting some questions about that, and I was just like, I don't know where to begin. And you wrote the book Alive, which I have here. And so tell me, what was your inspiration for that? Because I found it fascinating reading. It was really actually a huge support for me.
Yeah, kind of, the inspiration for the book really came out of, our working through this as a family and me professionally as a physician. When we started making changes in our own family, looking to improve our health, and we found that whole food plant-based diet was the optimal way to eat, I asked myself that question then, is it supported biblically as well as scientifically? And sure enough, I went to the Bible, and there it is in Genesis that God created every green plant and herb-bearing plant, and it was food for every living thing. And it was right there in Genesis, and it wasn't until after the flood, Genesis 9:3, that God gave Noah the freedom to begin eating things that creep upon the ground. And it's my personal philosophy that, because the world had changed so dramatically that the plants, God knew in his provision there would not be adequate plants in many regions where people were going to feed them. But God's first and best plan was plants for mankind. And then all of the books I was reading and all of the scientific literature that I was studying pointed toward that same idea that the more plants that we consume, the more growing living things that come out of the ground, the healthier our bodies become. Mm-hmm. And it seemed to be such a natural, like almost snap fit that, the science supports it. It aligned with God's creation for how our physiology would work. And so as we began implementing this as a family, we saw that the more that we ate, the healthier our bodies became. Our children never experienced ear infections or many serious colds. Most of them have never had to see a physician for being ill. Majority of my children, because we started when my youngest, my son, was 5. So the majority of my 6 children have never had to be on an antibiotic. I mean, they've been strong and vibrant and healthy their entire lives. So as we're working through this as a family, as I'm studying the Bible, I started to come across some really troubling statistics that the people in the church today, especially evangelical community, is more unhealthy than the average American. And I was really troubled by this. The heaviest and most unhealthy populations of faith-based people are the evangelical communities. Far more unhealthy than the Hindus, the Arabs, and the Islam. Far more healthy than any other religious group. And it started to trouble me that also there were statistics showing that the pastors, the clergy, were even more unhealthy than their populations of people that they were leading, and more unhealthy than the American population. And so I asked the question, well, why is this, if we're called as followers of Jesus to represent Christ to the world, why would the Christians be the most unhealthy people group? And it was out of that question that I wrote the book, as hopefully an inspiration to the body of believers to kind of wake up and to recognize that they've been asleep, and there's a deception that has crept in to the church and the fellowship and all of our fellowship dinners and get-togethers and potlucks, and even the donuts and coffee after church or in between church services. It's the deception has slept in, and it's causing the church to be unhealthy. And the evidence that I saw is that lots of conversations in the church are around sick and unhealthy people in the church. When we talk to pastors, they will share with us that they spend so much of their time visiting sick and praying for the sick that they have little time to actually go out and fulfill the great calling that's on their life, to meet the needs of the poor, to make a difference in the community, to go forth with the gospel, and to live in power and love. It seems like this whole food issue is eroding the purpose of the church today. And so I wrote the book as an inspiration about 5 years ago, and we can talk maybe in a minute about how that actually plays out in the church today, because the application, as you and I have talked about, is pretty significant because food is a big, big deal in life. It's easy to say what you shouldn't eat, but you get down to the brass tacks, and it is right up there where it's emotionally charged when we start to have these conversations.
And it's a tricky subject when you start speaking to someone about that. And but I find that really interesting that you draw the parallels between a pastor not being able to fulfill his mission and into the community and everything, because he's literally shepherding such a sick population. It's similar to a physician, how we get so caught up with, just writing scripts for diabetes, controlled meds, or to control the numbers, and then, things to control the blood pressure and cholesterol. And it's a reactionary thing because we can never get ahead because we're just getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So what has been the reception when you speak to someone regarding eating a whole food plant-based diet and they ask you, well, biblically speaking, is this supported? And you can show that it is. What has been their reaction? What's a common theme that you're seeing?
It's been very interesting. I've been doing this for about 5 years. I've visited churches all over America, and the reception has been really mixed. There are some churches where the leadership recognizes the importance, and they embrace it, they bring it in, and it becomes a culture in the church. And one of the things I always like to share with the church is that, I am coming with a message that I hope that eventually you don't even have to talk about. Because really the goal is that we have a healthy, strong, vibrant church that has healthy, strong, vibrant bodies, and they don't even have to have conversations about what should we eat, what shouldn't we eat. They're just fulfilling their calling, and that this is kind of a secondary issue. I don't want to be a ministry that takes forefront. I don't want to, try and create long-term support. I feel like I'm only coming alongside the church to point them in the direction to say, this is what you need to do to be healthy so that your bodies can carry the gift that God put inside of you all over the world, and you won't have to be constrained by illness and by sickness and medications or hospitalizations. So it's been mixed, but I really found that the most important thing is that the leadership, the pastor, the elders need to carry the same vision, because then it becomes a culture of the church. If it is a few individuals that invite me and I go in, but the leadership is not interested, it doesn't seem to take root. And then I have seen where the enemy likes to use this to create friction and division amongst people in the church. Because as you and I know, food is very, very powerful. People have very strong emotional ideas about what is healthy and what is not healthy, not often scientifically valid, but they have strong opinions. And those opinions can create friction among brothers and sisters. And that's not what I ever intend to see. Food should never be divisionary. It should be something that unifies us. And God would never want something like food to divide a church. So I've learned to be very careful about churches that I go to, that I'm only going when the pastor or the elders invite me, and they understand with clarity, what this message is. We have seen some amazing transformations in some churches. I worked at a church in Midland, Texas, and they've been using the Alive, and we created a Bible study for them, and some really amazing transformations. And the transformations that are exciting are the people that are freed from emotional eating and food addiction. And they recognize that that's been spiritual bondage on top of like a natural bondage from the food. And when they can get free from that, God really moves them in a powerful direction in their lives.
Excuse me.
Bless you. Bless you. So it has been really, really exciting in those churches that see that vision. I really think that it's coming where we're going to have an opportunity to move into more churches with the message. And I think that God's taken some time to refine the message so that when it's brought forth, it's brought in the right context, with a lot of love, so that there's not division, and with a lot of hope.
Yeah, I certainly think hope is lacking. I think that you're exactly right, because you do need to have someone to carry the message. I mean, that's the case with anywhere that you are. You start, let's say in a hospital setting, even if you don't have someone in the leadership to help promote the message, it's not going to, it'll just die out. So you have to have someone doing that. So I'm really excited to see where this goes for you. And like I said, I would encourage anyone to look at this. It's a 40-day plan, and it's a pretty amazing book in and of itself. But you also have another book with Milan Ross, and it's called The Change. And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so this comes out of the wonderful opportunity that I was given by John Mackey to host a one-week health immersion for Whole Foods. And through this process, Whole Foods is really a visionary company and has recognized that they need to make an investment in their team members' lives to help them achieve health, which in the end helps Whole Foods lower their healthcare costs. So it's that conscious capitalism idea that John Mackey really likes to move forward in business, where everybody wins with the right idea. So we've been hosting these health immersions for at least 8 years now, most of the time twice a year. And Whole Foods identifies the most unhealthy employees, and then to their credit, they pay for these team members to come and spend a week with us. And we do our health immersions down in Naples, Florida, just become kind of a second home for us. We have such an amazing time. We have a beach party. We go on a dinner cruise. We feed everyone there some amazing meals 3 times a day. We've worked with the chef to create these fantastic, delicious meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And we tell people, eat all you want. There's no restriction, which is really a mindset shift for them, thinking I have to lose weight and get healthy, I have to restrict and deprive myself. But that's the beautiful message of plant-based food, is its abundance without restriction, without scarcity, without deprivation, without pain, without sacrifice. It is beautiful and abundant and vibrant and delicious. So they enjoy this food all week. We do see them go through a little bit of a challenge with some withdrawal symptoms in the first 3 days. Sometimes it can be pretty fierce, and we may talk about that later. But Milan came to one of these immersions, and when he showed up, he was about 450 pounds. He'd been over 500 pounds at his highest. Diabetic, couldn't stand for more than 5 minutes, had a heart attack driving his son to school. Couldn't participate with his son in the backyard. He would have to sit in a chair and throw the ball for his son. And because of his health issues, he had disrupted relationships. He had a disrupted relationship with his son because his son would say, Dad, drop me off 2 blocks from school, because every time you drop me off at school, the children tease me because you're so heavy. He couldn't go play ball with his son. He couldn't coach his son's teams. So, every part of his life was under duress because of his poor health. So the reason I wrote the book is this, because Mylan came to our health immersion, and in the first couple of days, we talk about the emotional reasons that we eat. And it became very apparent to Mylan in the first couple of days that he had unresolved bitterness and anger and resentment towards his mother because they had a falling out on his birthday when she would call him every morning at 3 o'clock in the morning when he was born on his birthday. And they would both have their tea and toast and talk. And there was 1 year where they had a disrupted relationship. She didn't call. They both became hurt and embittered, and they never resolved it before she died of cancer. So he was carrying around not only that unresolved bitterness and unforgiveness, but he was carrying around guilt that he didn't resolve this before she passed away. And at the immersion, he was able to stand up in front of everyone and with tears in his eyes running down his face, forgive his mother for the first time in his life, and then forgive himself and resolve that personal guilt that he carried. And once that emotional burden was lifted, that was such a driver for him to continue down that destructive road of eating those foods which help to pacify pain. And he became free to implement a whole food plant-based diet in his life. And in the first year, he lost 230 pounds. All of his diseases went away, discontinued all of his medications. His wife's MS symptoms improved and resolved. And then the powerful thing is he started coaching his son's team. And his son, Nigel, used to say, "Dad, I want you to drop me off at school now because all the children think you are Superman." So everything in his life changed. And then from there, Mylan began to influence other people with his story. And so Mylan and I decided that we would write a book together because it's such a powerful testimony of what can happen when people grab hold of the emotional reason for living and the emotional release that comes when we operate in forgiveness and love and a whole food plant-based diet. And when that is put together, radical transformations can occur. Mm-hmm. So we took his story as the first half of every chapter, and we took the lectures that I would give throughout the course of the week and put the kind of day-by-day informational lecture through the second half of every chapter. And so it gives people an opportunity to experience a little bit of the immersion and to learn what Mylan learned and help to transform his life and to see the life transformed throughout the week and to see, even as they follow him, the amazing things that he's doing now.
That's incredible. I had a great interview with Mylan on a podcast. It's been a few months though, and I know he just had his second baby, and that's really exciting.
That's right.
But then I get to meet him in Miami in person, so he's a crack up. He's full of life and energy and excitement, and just happy to share the message. And I think I would encourage anyone to listen to that podcast as well, because it's very energizing what he does and what he shares and how he's gone on to literally it's catapulted him into a whole nother area career-wise and everything that he's doing. So that is incredible. So how many people who go through the immersions, do you guys have follow-up as to how many actually stick with the diet and see those type of significant changes?
Yeah, to the best of our ability, we do. And, this is one of the important parts of making a transformational change. There has to be a social network and support after an event like that or after an educational opportunity. That's one of the things that is currently lacking in the immersion programs. We do our best to follow up, but people come from all over the country. They go back to their stores and their lives, and they're not always plugged into a support staff. One of the things that we have always encouraged and that Whole Food has been very supportive of is sending a spouse or significant other with that person to the immersion so they can do it together. Because, when you have that unity at home, there's a much greater likelihood that you'll be successful than going back to a divided house where somebody wants their cheeseburger and the other person's wanting a lentil burger. Mm-hmm. Eventually you can't continue to do that in a house. And eventually, people tend to slide back to the old ways because it keeps the peace. Mm-hmm. So long-term support and unity at home is really critical. And creating community is really important long-term. And, we've seen that about 30 to 40% of the people that come to a one-week immersion are able to maintain some long-term change, which is really pretty good without a lot of social support, necessarily back home. I think that there's lots of things that we can do better as physicians in creating that community. And I think it's important for a person to be able to go back to a physician or a healthcare practitioner or even a health coach that's supportive of their change, that will help kind of propel them as they work through some of the challenging spots that are inevitable in a lifestyle transformation. Transformation is it's an easy thing to say, not always an easy thing to do, especially when we start talking about lifestyle habits and especially the habit of food and eating. Mm-hmm. It's far more important and I think far deeper part of who we are than any of us realize. And to ask people that have at home that have not been to an immersion and never learned that information to just embrace the change, to ask children and especially teenagers to embrace the change without that experience can be really challenging for these people. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's the second part of the overlay that really needs to be put in place past the immersion is a real opportunity for ongoing education and outreach and to tap into the community. And what I see coming forward for all of us that are working in this area is that pop culture is beginning to be even more supportive of this. There are going to be television shows that are going to be supportive in the near future. There are going to be cooking shows that are supportive of plant-based. There are going to be more recognizable stars that are supporting plant-based message. It's going to become more integrated into our daily lives, which I think is going to make it much easier for those that are struggling to make a lasting lifestyle change.
That is very true. So as far as when you describe the Whole Foods and the Fallout, do they have health coaches in their stores to help people at all? Or is that just...
They used to. They used to have health coaches, but because of some constraints of finances, they had to release their health coaches.
Okay.
That was a key person, for the people when they went back from the immersions back into their stores. It was a key point of connection and accountability and support that's not necessarily there now. And, it's a tough culture, as you know. If you go from this beautiful place where all the food is made for you and you walk back into the culture, it can be very challenging.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, Naples is a beautiful place. It's just across the peninsula here, or the state. Yes. As far as when you work with people, I know you're just left a normal practice, right? Just recently, last year, is that right?
I did, yes,
and
that's correct.
So when you were in a normal practice as a physician who does this, I mean, I know my story and how I relate that to patients. How did you approach a patient who had no idea maybe what you do, and share with them this information and actually encourage them to make this transformation, or at least begin to look into this as a possibility?
Yeah, in my practice, I had such an amazing opportunity because I saw lots of people that came in, they had no idea that I was going to talk to them about plant-based nutrition, which I loved. It's easy if people come in seeking that. The real challenge, and I think the opportunity to hone our skills, is when people don't expect it. And that's the last thing on their mind when they come to see you and you have the opportunity to bring it up. And I was in a busy practice. I would see 40 patients a day. So I didn't have hours to start the conversation. So I would look for things that were meaningful to them. If I was seeing a teenager and they were struggling with acne, I would use that as an opportunity to open the door and say, listen, did you know there's a way that you can resolve your acne without taking any medications and feel great? And I would use that as the open door. And when they said yes, I would give them a little bit more, but I wouldn't overfeed them. I would let them ask for more. I think that's one of the things I learned as a physician that's so important. And even for all of us as we share this message, we all get so excited that we want to back up the dump truck and load people up with everything that we know. But it's really important to just give them enough salt to make them thirsty that they'll ask for a little bit more. And so that's what I learned, is to find something that is meaningful to the person, that would push them to ask for more information. If somebody came with a lot of pain, inflammation, I would tell them, did you know there are foods that cause inflammation and foods that reduce inflammation? And they would say, really? And I say, it's powerful. And some of the foods and some of the spices are more powerful than taking medications like ibuprofen or Celebrex. And they would say, really? And I would say, well, let me tell you about it. So that gives the perfect opportunity to talk about the inflammatory foods, which is pretty much the Western diet, and to talk about the anti-inflammatory foods, which are a plant-based diet. And so in that way, it's a kind of a gentle introduction. But I always looked for a way to introduce that. If somebody was struggling with irritable bowel syndrome, I would tell them, do you know we can actually solve that and you'll never have a problem the rest of your life. You'll never have to worry about bloating in your stomach. And they'd say, no, I didn't know that. I said, well, let me tell you how it works. And so it was really, I found it a beautiful way to introduce a topic that could have been contentious. You know, if I just tried to tell them what to eat, I wanted to make them hungry so they would desire information and want to know what to eat. And so it really worked out well. And I would give them just what they wanted, or just what they were willing to take that day, knowing that they would come back another day and probably ask for more. And I would always give them something to take home.
I think that's a great strategy, that you're giving just enough to whet their appetite to bring them in a little bit more. Yeah, that's a very good idea. So I'm curious, what are some of do you have a favorite success story or someone that really stands out in your mind that you're like, wow, it was an incredible thing what they did by changing their diet?
Yeah, you know, one that comes to my mind, because I think it speaks to the power of how a diet can change an entire situation. I had a patient that came to me from a surgeon who had back surgery, and she had an acute, as a medical term, and I'll explain it, radiculopathy, a pinched nerve causing severe pain down her leg. And to complicate the problem, after surgery, because of antibiotics, her irritable bowel syndrome had been completely turned upside down, and she was going to the bathroom 20 to 25 times a day. And every time she sat down, the pain would shoot down her leg like electricity. So she was really caught in this place. She couldn't take any medications because of her irritable bowel to reduce the inflammation. She couldn't undergo injections because, everything was so inflamed she couldn't lay on her stomach to get an epidural injection. And she didn't know what to do. On just a little yellow piece of paper, I remember I wrote down, here's how you solve your irritable bowel syndrome. And I gave it to her. And in 3 weeks, her irritable bowel completely resolved. She was back to normal bowel movements, which gave us the opportunity to resolve her radiculopathy. She went from being fearful, depressed, on disability, to having full resolution of all of her conditions and going back to teaching school in about 8 weeks. And had we not had that dietary piece, the cure for her irritable bowel, I don't know what would have happened to her. I don't think that she would have been able to overcome. Because you and I both know in medicine, there is no solution for irritable bowel that is that quick. We can give steroids, we can give, immunomodulating drugs, we can do these things, but it doesn't solve it. But she was fully resolved, fully healed, and fully returned to a normal life. And diet was the key piece there that allowed, it was like the keystone or the key that opened the door that allowed everything to progress to full resolution.
I mean, if he would not have sent her to you and some other doctor, I mean, they might have just tried some type of medication to stop the frequent bowel movements. And I mean, she'd have been on a host of medications probably the rest of her life with chronic pain, never gone back to teaching. I mean, who knows where that would have led. Wow.
That's right.
And when you see these changes, I know as a family practice doctor, I mean, coming off medications has been a really interesting kind of a backwards learning process. And whenever I have physicians who ask me, well, how do you, wean someone off their diabetic medications? And I never really thought of it that way until recently when a physician asked me very specific questions. And so when you have physicians who approach you saying, well, what is this that you're doing with this plant-based lifestyle or in this diet? What do you tell them? And, if you had an elevator speech or something that you had to share with someone to kind of maybe tweak them as a physician, because that is the place in our network, our social networks that really make this really take off is the physician. So what do you tell someone to really tweak their interest to literally change how they practice? I mean, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I think the thing as a physician that affected me probably the most powerfully, and I think affects other physicians, is to know that many of the degenerative diseases that we are all treating and managing today are not only preventable, and not only are they manageable with diet, but they're reversible. And I think that reversible word is a powerful word, because none of us were taught that these diseases could be reversible. I know in my training, nobody ever taught me the origin of hypertension. I understood the mechanism of hypertension, but I never understood the origin. The same with atherosclerosis, the same with type 2 diabetes, the same even with type 1 diabetes. I never understood the root cause, and then I never understood how that root cause could be managed or treated so that it would be reversed. And to understand that, more than 75% of the cost of healthcare today are lifestyle diseases that are preventable and reversible with nutrition and with lifestyle is a powerful message for physicians. And I always like to share with physicians too that, adding something like lifestyle medicine and plant-based nutrition to your practice changes the whole day. You have patients that come in and they are excited. I have patients that would bring in bags of kale from their garden because they've learned to garden. They bring in bags of, fresh collard greens. They bring in tomatoes. They bring in all this beautiful fruit and vegetables. And we have conversations like this. They say, "Thank you so much, Dr. Stoll. I really don't think I need to see you anymore. So I just wanted to give you a gift before I leave." And that is a marvelous thing when a patient actually gets well and tells you they don't need you anymore. And it changed not only, my own enthusiasm for my day to have people get well and to thank me. It changed my staff to actually see people getting well that were coming in happy and joyful. It changed the front desk because when people came in and they were getting better, they were happier and more. It changed the entire dynamic and the entire environment within my practice. And so I asked them, things like, imagine if you went in every day and your patients were getting better and they thanked you for the work that you were doing. Imagine that you went in and you had to write fewer medications, or you had to call for fewer prior authorizations for medications because your patients didn't need them any longer. Imagine that you got fewer calls from your patients because they were getting better and not having more complications on their medications. Imagine if your patients were happy and grateful at the front desk and they actually thanked your staff for everything that was going on. Imagine that your patients gifted you food that they grew in their gardens because you had inspired them to live a different way. Imagine that your patients were changing the community because you had inspired them in such a way that they were changing the lives around them. And those statements kind of cause people to stop and think, like, what is medicine really about? And I think it stirs in a lot of our colleagues the original reason that we all went into medicine, that we all said in our interviews in medical school, I'm going into medicine because I want to help people. For most of us, that's why we were there. And this is the greatest opportunity to help people, is to truly give them their lives back.
Yeah, I like to equate that. It's true healing. And not only that, though, it's a bit of a rush to see how them come in. It's just like, yes, you'll scan your list of patients. You're like, oh, they're coming back. I can't wait to see how they're doing. It is a lot of fun. And you're exactly right. The staff changes. But the really fun thing is to actually see those patients take that message, hone it themselves, and then share it with family, friends, and ripple throughout their community. And that's really fun. And then they will come in and they're like, I don't understand why my sister won't do this. She's diabetic and I'm telling her and she won't listen, Dr. Marvis. I'm like, just keep living the example. That's like, now you understand my frustration.
That's exactly right.
Oh, man. But,
that's right.
That just is a nice segue into this other thing coming up in September. You want to tell us about the international conference that you have?
Yes. And so, as I was starting to learn this on my own, and I spent literally thousands of hours teaching myself. I started, probably 15 years ago. There weren't any conferences. There were only a few books on the market. I had to do a lot of research on my own. I read thousands of articles online. And I was talking one evening with a friend of mine that helps me run the immersions. And I said, you know what, Tom? We really should start a conference to help educate physicians so that they can come to one place and they can learn all this information in 3 or 4 days, and they can go back and begin implementing it in their practices. And my friend Tom is such a great, he's a great guy because he's a guy that sees possibilities and he understands work, but he said, sure, let's do it. So we didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We started this first conference, and then thankfully we met along the way in that first year our third partner, Susan Benegas, who helps us. And we're just a beautiful team that each of us have, 1/3 of a puzzle, and together it all comes together. So it's been so beautiful to work with them. So we started a conference to educate physicians and healthcare practitioners. We held our first conference in Naples, Florida. We had 200 people. The second year we were in San Diego. We had about 400. We had our third conference in Anaheim, and we had 500. Last year we had 800, and we should be close to 1,000 this year from 20 plus countries. We have this amazing group of Japanese physicians that come, and some of them don't even speak English, but they're so excited about the conference and the environment, they just want to be there. Oh, wow. And we really structured it in such a way that we want the conference to be the highest scientific integrity. So we invite the top, scientists and leaders in the field to present scientific information that will change the life. We also want people to experience the food. So we work with hotels to create 3 delicious meals a day during the conference. And the conference has drawn these amazing people from all over the globe, healthcare practitioners that have the same philosophy that you and I do, Lori, where you really want people to get better. That's your heart's desire is to see people break free from this bondage and to know that there's hope and freedom and to walk in that freedom. And so the energy and the relationships that are there are second to none. In fact, we have, it's so amazing. We have some, last year at the conference, I had a couple of physicians come up to me, and they had tears in their eyes at the end of the conference. And they said to me, I've never been to a conference like this before where I've actually cried at the end of the conference. So it has been, and it has that kind of a feel because it's a beautiful place with a beautiful group of people and life-changing information. This year is going to be held back in Anaheim again at the Hyatt Regency Hotel. We have an amazing lineup of speakers that are going to be talking about all kinds of topics from farming to the microbiome to heart disease with Dr. Esselstyn. And we're always looking to push and expand the breadth of plant-based nutrition and understand how it affects every part of our human physiology.
Right. And I know Dr. Dean Ornish will be there this year.
Dr. Dean Ornish will be there. Yes. T. Colin Campbell will be back again talking about dairy, which should be a great lecture.
Oh, yes. And Dr. Esselstyn, I mean, I'm ecstatic to, I mean, just in networking opportunities to meet everybody and then, knowing that there's that support system there. And I would like to see afterwards some type of forum that we can actually continue to connect and discuss. And I think that's where the ACLM is coming into play. I hope the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. So we'll see where that goes, but I'm very excited to go. I can't wait in September. So
and you're speaking too.
I am.
We're grateful that you're going to be there sharing. So
I am going to see. I'm so excited. I have so many. The case presentation. There's so many to choose from. I'm trying to figure out what should be the most compelling in a story. Because I think that's really right. What's going to motivate someone. And so I love it. I can't wait. And I'm with Dr. Clapper and Dr. Ron Weiss. So I'm like a groupie. So it's hilarious. These poor guys. It's great. And I feel for them. Oh, they have no idea. And it's going to be amazing. So, but you also have all these different things going on in your life, and you just every opportunity that you see to share this message in another venue, it's incredible. But let's go back though. I think we missed the very beginning of where this all started. Like, how did you first fall onto this and approach this in the very beginning? And like, where did that come from?
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately these things are, God working in your life. So that's where it ultimately started. Just brief history, I was nutritional science major in undergraduate and biochem and pre-med. And then, I went on to bobsledding and medical school. And I really thought I understood nutrition as an athlete, as nutritional science, major. I thought I understood it. I finished my residency and I started taking care of patients. And, like we often hear in our practices, my patients kept saying to me, Dr. Stoll, can't you help me? I'm falling apart. Mm-hmm. And I would hear it and I would laugh and I would order a test. I would do a procedure. I would give them a medication. I would give them a referral, order an imaging test, and I would go to a family get together and I would hear, Uncle Joe say, yeah, I'm falling apart, getting older. And I would go to a get-together with a bunch of physicians, and I would hear the older physicians laughing that they're falling apart. And I kept hearing that same term over and over again. And then there was one day in my practice, a woman was sitting on the exam table in front of me, and she said, "Dr. Stoll, can't you help me? I'm falling apart." And she was laughing. And I said, everybody tells me that. What does that really mean to you? And I was just curious. I just asked a question, an innocent question. And there was a long pause. And then she started to cry. And I thought, well, what did I do? What did I say? And she answered the question in a way that I wasn't expecting. I had her past medical history. I had her list of medications. And I thought she would start down the list. But she said, my marriage is falling apart because my husband is exhausted. He's so tired of taking care of me and taking me to doctors that seems like we've lost our love. She said, I haven't been able to travel to see my grandchildren for several years because I can't get on an airplane. I can't go to church regularly on Sundays because I just can't sit in the pews. I need to lay down. My friends have stopped coming around because I think they're tired of me complaining about being sick. She said our family finances are nearing bankruptcy because all we do is spend money on hospital bills and medications. She said, I feel depressed every day. She said, I don't have a purpose for living. She said, so pretty much my life is falling apart. And then she leaned forward and said, can you help me? And, my mind started to race back to all of the lectures that I had in medical school, all of my years in residency. And I realized at that moment that I had nothing in my repertoire of education to help this woman sitting in front of me. I didn't know how to help put her life back together again. I had no idea how to help these issues that she was sharing with me. Maybe I could refer her to a counselor, but that wouldn't help her with some of the things that she was actually talking to me about. So I left that room and I really asked myself a question. I said, Scott, what are you going to do the next time that somebody asks you for help when they are falling apart, like this patient that you just saw? And that sent me on kind of a research expedition. I got certified in age management medicine because I thought, well, maybe that's it. I see the guy in the in-flight magazines, he looks like he's 75 and he has the body of a 22-year-old. I thought, well, maybe that's the answer. So I actually got certified with that guy out in Las Vegas. And I realized that's not the answer. It's expensive. There's a lot of lab tests. There's side effects for all those things that they're doing to their bodies. It's not a universal solution. And the more that I went back, I recognized that it's the food that we eat and the decisions that we make about how we live our life that impact the condition that we're in, which ultimately impacts, our health influences every part of our life. It influences our relationship with our spouse or significant other. It influences our relationship with our children. It influences the sharing of the gift that God's put inside of us. It influences our work. It influences our coworkers. It influences our finances. It influences everything and every part of who we are. Mm-hmm. And so in that searching, I came across, first read all these diet books because I thought certainly somebody who's written a diet book, Atkins or somebody, has an answer. Certainly seemed like that. They were selling a lot of books. So I read Atkins to Zone and everything in between, and I finished, and I was more confused than when I started that process. I didn't know if it was low carb, high fat, I didn't know what was the answer. And I realized that all the diet books were really looking for a single solution of weight loss. But nobody was talking about how to put that woman's life back together again, how to help her reconstruct her health so that these other things can be mitigated and resolved. So then I just went back. I said, well, it's got to be something with food and the way that we live. And I started reading articles online. I started to find my way to books. Of course, like so many of us, I found T. Collins' book, The China Study. I found Joel Fuhrman's book, Eat to Live. I looked and read thousands of articles online, realized that I didn't really understand nutrition. I thought I did, but I was kind of probably arrogantly thinking that I understood nutrition, but I really had no idea the power and the depth of the influence of the food that we eat, that it goes all the way down and impacts our genes, our DNA within a couple of hours. It just permeates everything that we are. And then I went and spent some time with Joel Fuhrman and some other people around the country, and I saw that what they were doing was making their people healthier and stronger and more vibrant week after week after week. So I went back into my own practice and I used my prescription pad to begin writing prescriptions for smoothies and for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I would give that to my patients, and they would come back and they would tell me about how their lives had been transformed even in a short period of time. And so that's what convinced me. And then we also made changes as a family. And the health that we experienced, the radical transformation, convinced all of us that this is the way to go.
So how many years now have you and your family been eating a plant-based diet?
Let's see, it has been about almost 13 years now since that first transition.
So
and, we had this interesting experience too. We went from, kind of a more Western price, animal-based, almost paleo diet, raw milk, meat, all that stuff, to this plant-based diet, and our children's health and our health radically transformed. Mm-hmm. So there was a big difference from, a better diet to a really good diet, the plant-based diet.
Right, absolutely. So now when your children are growing up, did they go to a public schools?
We have homeschooled our children, which has been really a blessing. It allows us to take them to the immersions. I usually take one of my children with me whenever I travel, because I feel like that's the best opportunity for them to gain an education, being in these conferences, sitting and having lunch with Kim Williams, the president of the American College of Cardiology. Those are tremendous opportunities. So we've homeschooled, which has made it easier for them, but we've worked with lots and lots of families on lunches and how do you do this in the school system, because that is challenging.
Exactly. And that's, so when my kids were 13, 15, and 18 is when we transitioned our diet about 5.5 years ago. And that was interesting that my youngest actually enjoyed being different. So I guess it just really depends on how you spin it.
That's right.
You're unique in Western Colorado. So whatever happened, I know you had up to an hour or so, we're getting close to that. But whatever happened to that patient that asked you that question? And did you ever get back to her and help her transition?
No, it's a great question. I never saw her again. I'm hoping that someday she'll find a book, she'll remember me, and she'll want to come back. But by the time it actually took me years to figure all of this out, it was probably 2 to 3 years before I really was able to understand how to help people. And in that period of time, we kind of lost follow-up, and I wasn't able to help her. But she is the inspiration, and whether she knows it or not, her life has helped so many people because it inspired me to do something different.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was one patient for me as well, and her daughter. And so it just flipped, and my whole life has changed. The trajectory of my family.
I know, here we are.
Here we are talking on the podcast, and these one patients do these one things. And, you talk about the ripple effects of how literally food is our foundation, not only of our physical health, but our emotional, our spiritual, and those relational things. So I had a patient who a couple of years ago transitioned her diet, and beyond the fact that she'd tell me that she used to cry when she'd go to dressing, or to a dressing room and try on a dress or something and just walk away in tears. When she lost, I think she lost like 40, 45 pounds in a matter of 12 weeks or something. She would talk about, well, now I had to go to a wedding and I left with 3 dresses, and she was feeling so amazing. But beyond that was her relationship with her husband, and how she said that now this has really transformed our relationship. It's made our family unit stronger. And that's what really got to her, was just, she's more patient. She's not going to bed after work. She's ready and energized to make healthy dinners, and, participate with, child rearing, that before she was just so exhausted. By the end of the day, she would just crawl into bed. And so that is really fun. Those are those inspirational stories, but that's incredible. Wow, I think I could probably keep talking to you. As you know, many of our conversations linger longer as I keep asking you questions.
I know it. It's like kindred spirits. I love those conversations. Well, we can come back another day and continue on.
Yeah,
too.
I think there will have to be a part 2 of the Dr. Stoll podcast for sure. So I'm really excited to see where you go with the church, because I think that holds a dear place to your heart and mind. And I'm looking forward to being able to help any way I can with that. But I like to end every podcast with acknowledgement and just say thank you for everything you've done. Not only your personal patients, but your thousands of lives of people that you've also helped through educating physicians, through helping one patient and helping others, or even changing your own family. So I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing and done. And I can't wait to see how many more people you're going to bless. So thank you again for that.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Lori, for all that you are doing. You are an amazing person. And we thank you for these podcasts and the amazing service and the leadership that you are picking up at this point in your life. And you're doing some amazing things. And so I really appreciate you and all that you're doing. And we're grateful that you're going to be a part of our conference this year.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm beyond excited. I'll be floating the entire time I'm there. So, but I just want to say thank you again. And like I said, I'll put links to everything, to all of your amazing resources, and make sure they get the Change, the book, and the live, and check out Milan's podcast as well. And we'll go from there. But thanks again for joining us.
That's great. Oh, thank you very much. And thanks to everyone that joined us on the podcast. Have a great day.
You too.